Think of one of your favorite people in the world. What is their best trait that you appreciate about them?
Oh, I would have to say that their best trait is their grace and the way that they carry themselves. And they're always just so elegant and kind.
That's good. Grace is something that we don't see nowadays. Between cancel culture, everybody doxing people,
Yeah.
grace is not something that we're afforded much these days.
Yeah.
But I like that, grace.
Yeah.
Thank you all for tuning in to another episode of Take a Space Podcast. I am your host, Leah, and I am so glad to be joined today by Robin. And I saw your content on Instagram, and I was just so happy to see that there were somebody who has a heart for the young women in our society who are trying to break out from, well, no, you're kind of just been bred to marry, and that's what you need to do is continue the cycle. So two things that I noticed in your content was that you build up resiliency, you help them build resiliency, and it really empower them to be who it is they are without having to rely on comparisons from social media or even from other people that may not even fit the mold that they're trying to do. So I would like for you to just introduce yourself to the audience and tell us a little bit about what you do.
Yeah, thanks, Leah. Well, my name is Robin Shirley, and I am a licensed professional counselor associate here in the state of South Carolina. And I am also a certified K through 12 school counselor. So I currently work on the elementary level. I've done all three levels, but I work on the elementary level. That is my heart. And I also own and I'm the founder of Empowered Princesses Therapy for Girls.
That is beautiful. And what is it about the young girls that draws you to them to help them and empower them?
Yeah, so I think it boils down to purpose. And I say that because while working as a school counselor, I noticed that when I would facilitate a lesson, a group lesson or a classroom lesson, and I would ask the entire class, let's talk about self-esteem, self-worth. Tell me what it is you love about yourself. And for the boys, it was kind of easy for them to say, hey, I love this, I love that. And the girls, it was so hard for them to think of something positive to say about themselves. And I started noticing a trend. It was hard for them to think of something positive to say about themselves. It was hard for them to think about something that their family loved about them. It was hard for them to figure out why their friends even wanted to be friends with them. And so I thought to myself, something has to give. And so I like to call it that warm fuzzy. It just woke up in me. Mm-hmm. And I knew that I needed to do something more.
So. See, that's beautiful. And I like seeing the content. And I can only imagine the people who are actually able to experience you, whether, virtually or in person, having sessions with you. What kinds of things do you typically work on? You talked about the self-esteem and the self-worth. What types of things do you typically work on with the demographic that you do serve?
Yeah, so self-esteem, self-worth, that's one of the top things. But most of the girls I serve are perfectionists. And it's amazing that it starts at a young age. And we see it in adults a lot, but we don't realize that our young babies are walking around as perfectionists. So I see a lot of girls who are struggling with perfectionism, realizing that trying to understand the importance of I can't always have everything the right way. Everything is not going to fall in line the right way.
Yes.
I may make a B and it's okay. My life is not over. So just trying to get them to understand that part I also help a lot of girls who struggle with anxiety and depression. And I see a lot of girls who struggle with family conflict, moms and daughters just trying to understand each other a little bit more.
Hmm.
So, on top of offering counseling sessions for the girls, I also offer counseling sessions for parents, and I like to tie it all in together.
So that's really good. So what does that look like? Because you have to kind of create a space that is safe for both parents and daughter. And so how do you do that and balance the two where it's like, okay, there's a disconnection in the communication. Let's see if we can help that. How do you do that in your sessions?
Yeah, it's quite interesting. For my younger clients and sometimes for my teenage clients, I like to have that first session with the parent and the child.
Okay.
So in the first session, of course, you ask the typical questions, but I also like to add some flavor in there. So I like asking parents, tell me about your daughter's strengths, because I want those girls to hear the positive things that their parents are going to say about them,
Right.
especially if they're struggling with family child connections, parent child connections. So I ask them questions like that, and I try to prompt them to say those positive things. I know you want to focus on some of the things that are bothering you, but
Hmm.
what are some of the things that are going well? And so I try to keep the parents in there for a few minutes, and then I let them know. I tell them about confidentiality. I tell them I'm here with you. Even in our consultation, I let them know I'm right here in your corner. I'm your champion with you. You're not alone. Anytime you need me, let me know. And so I build that relationship with the parents as well as the child. And
Hmm.
so by the time the child leaves, we've spent that entire first session getting to know each other, trying to work out the situation as far as it being new for them and
Hmm.
just creating that safe space for them. So most times by the time they're leaving, they're telling their parents like, hey, I want to come back again. And I'm just like, whoo, yes, come back.
So I love that you said you add your own flavor to the typical questions, which kind of leads into the conversation of representation. How how big of a role do you think representation plays in mental health?
I think representation plays a huge role as a Black woman, and as a Black woman who's in therapy and advocating for the mental health of young children. I
Mhm.
think it plays a huge role. It means a lot when my Black young girls are online searching for a therapist and they find me. And so when
Yes.
a parent tells me that their daughter found me and texted them and told them, this is who I want, that's proof by itself that representation matters.
Hmm.
Even, as far as just representing, being proud of my Black culture, being proud to walk around and let the girls know it's okay to be yourself. I can have those real conversations with them. They feel comfortable saying, well, with me being Black, they don't have to be uncomfortable with that because I understand, I get what
Yes.
they're going through. And so I feel like representation matters a lot within our culture and within mental health, because at some point we have to understand that if we're not comfortable with who we're sharing with, fully
Hmm.
comfortable and fully able to be vulnerable, then it's not going to work out. And it's going to be a missing piece to the puzzle.
Yes. Yes, that is so true.
Yeah.
How, so how do we make sure that, and this is, I'm going a little bit off script here, but how do we make sure that they're the ones who are there, because we don't have a lot of therapists that look like us. They're out there, right? But what are some ways that the visibility is there if I or people in our community are searching for therapists?
Yeah, I think we all play a responsibility in that. And so as in my role, what I try to do is I try to put as much information as I can out there. Even when it comes to things like Open Path Collective, where you can find a therapist, on a budget. You don't have to
Mm,
pay full price for it. Even as far as letting people know that a lot of therapists offer rates, cheaper rates or lower rates for people who might be in a financial bind. I try to make sure I put as much information out there, even if it takes me speaking to a church and letting them know the importance of finding a therapist and sending resources to help them find those therapists. That responsibility, I feel it lies on us, because when we have this information and we hold it and we don't share it with our community, we're not doing a justice to the calling that we have on our lives.
Right.
So I feel that it's important that we put out as much information as possible. And I think it's such a beautiful thing, like I said earlier, for young children to know that they need therapy and to know to get online and look for a therapist. That is amazing. So it just kind of lets me know that we have to continue to work of just educating people on how to find a therapist, educating people on the difference between paying out of pocket and using their insurance, and what that means for them and what that means for their family and the therapist.
Mm-hmm. So one, you're brave, because it's just starting to turn where I grew up in church. And so, did you grow up in church?
Oh, yes.
Okay. So,
girl.
So growing up in church, mental health mental health wasn't something that we talked about. It's like, oh, they got that thing, or they'll be all right, something wrong, or let's pray the demon away, right? Yeah. Mm-hmm. So you're brave in talking to the church now. Some churches now are recognizing, and they even have some staff who are licensed professional therapists or counselors. And I'm appreciating that kind of representation even in the church. How do you deal with, or how do you overcome the self-eliminating barriers or the issues that are really non-issues when coming to see a therapist? I know money is always going to be a thing, right? We're always going to talk about how much things are, but let's understand, we pay for what we want. Right. So we're not even going to make money a part of this conversation. But I want to talk about some barriers that we can mentally get over to seek out help for our mental health.
Well, when I speak with churches, one thing that is one of my new mottos is make sure you have Jesus and therapy too.
Listen, Jesus and therapy is like the motto of Take a Faith podcast.
Yes. Like, you need Jesus. Yes. Pray, fast, praise him. Yes. But when you leave church and you feel burdened down still, make sure you have that appointment to see your therapist later on in the week. Right. Make sure you have that appointment to Christ and your therapist, right, because it has to balance out. And so I try to let people know, yes, I believe in prayer. Yes, prayer works. Yes, God is good and he is going to deliver me. But he also placed people in positions to help us while we're here. And so we have to understand that it's almost like if I'm sick or if something is wrong with me, of course I'm going to pray, but I'm also going to go to the doctor. Right. I'm also going to trust that expertise of the person who is in that doctor's office. Right. Trust the expertise of the person who is in that therapy office. Trust them to help you walk through the trauma, the stress, the anxiety, the depression. Trust them to help you walk through that. And also trust God that while you're doing the work on this side, he's going to do the work on the other side. Mm-hmm. So that's really what I try to encourage my fellow churchgoers to live by. It's okay. It's okay. And I also try to let pastors know, because like I said, I grew up in a holiness church. So I try to let pastors know that when you see those saints in the church and they are not getting into service, they don't want to clap, they're just sitting there, they're burdened down. You don't always have to plead the blood of Jesus. Sometimes you just need a referral to a therapist. Sometimes that person is just so burdened down, because if I'm down to my last dime, if I don't know where the next meal is coming from, there is no way I'm just going to come to church and act like nothing is wrong. Right. There is no way. So if I know the stress and what I'm facing tomorrow, I need more than just prayer. I need you to give me some extra help. And to me, that therapy is going to be that safe space. And like I tell people, you want that non-judgmental person, that
Yes.
person that you can just be vulnerable with. And I hear oftentimes people are like, oh, well, I can talk to my husband and I can talk to my girlfriends. And I get it, but be real. How many things are you really going to want to share from the deep core? Those
Right.
secret feelings that you don't want to share with anyone else. At least if you go see a therapist, you can just be real, get your crying out. And when you leave that office, you're going to feel a release because that's what they're there for. So I just try to encourage people, believe in God, but believe in therapy as well.
And it's so true that you can vent, because that's essentially what it is. You can vent to whomever you want to vent to, but they're not trained with the tools necessary that you need
Right.
to overcome the root of the issue. Or they
Yeah.
may not know how to ask the right questions to know what the real issue is. You
Right.
know, you just blew your top because somebody left the top off the toothpaste, but it was a snowball effect of what happened beforehand, you
Yep.
know?
Yep.
And also, and one thing I love about my group of friends is we can, before we even get to the venting, it's like, hey, how's your day? Do you have the capacity to hear me vent?
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes they say no. And guess what? I'm not venting to them that day. So
Mm-hmm.
whatever it is, I have to make sure that I have an outlet to get that out. And a lot of people assume, and we get, you know, so tired of listening to other people complain so much that it can be really wearing on your support system if all you want to do is, not saying that all you do is vent to them, but if you're going through the same problem over and over again, a therapist, a really good trained therapist, will be able to help you get to the root of that, to change it,
Yeah.
even changing your perspective. So I absolutely agree. Um, how so you deal with young ladies, young girls. How young is too young, or when should therapy start?
Well, I see girls from ages 5 to 29.
Okay.
And so my youngest client is 5 years old. And so I think that therapy, there is no time frame on therapy. There is no age on therapy. I feel that when a parent sees that their child is in need, that
Mm.
parent needs to do what they need to do in order to help that child.
What does that need look like?
That need could be when you see a child is constantly anxious or
Mhm.
afraid of things and they're not getting over those fears as a young child, or you see that child, you know, their behavior has all of a sudden shifted. At one time
Mhm.
this child was just so happy and calm and, you know, friendly, and now you see that child isolating themselves. Those are signs. Those are
Mhm.
signs that your child is going through something. And one thing I like to tell parents, when your child tells you that they need help, when they tell you that they're feeling a certain way, believe them. And don't try to fix the situation yourself, or, you know, make it seem like, oh, you know, you're just having a bad day, or, you know, you're just going through teenage stuff. You're just a preteen, so you're going through hormonal things.
Mm.
And I try to tell parents, you know, don't always make that the excuse. Pay attention. Pay attention to those warning signs, because children are going to reveal warning signs, whether it's their behavior changing, whether they're
Mhm.
isolating themselves from their family, whether they just refuse to even do anything besides lay in bed and cry all night. They give warning signs. And it's sad to me that even at 9 years old, children are committing suicide. And it's not always because of bullying. Sometimes it's because pressure that they're facing at home. And like people often say, well, what kind of pressure can a child be facing?
That's
Well,
what I heard when you said 5 years old. I heard somebody say, now, what can a 5-year-old be going through?
listen, listen, they have big emotions and they don't know how to handle it. They
Mm-hmm.
need help managing their emotions. Think about it. Like, if you see a child who's anxious if you don't have anyone there to help them through that anxiety, you're just going to have a child who's constantly afraid, constantly crying, constantly holding on to mama because they don't know what else to do to manage those emotions. So if they can get those coping skills in place and we can get it done from a young age, as they grow up, they'll already have those tools in their kit. So they can just keep fulfilling what they need to fulfill and being happy young women.
Mm. So what are some, so you told us some physical signs to look for, the isolation, the anxiety, the fears that they have, the change in behavior. What are some things that a child may say that may make a parent think, hey, I should probably get you in to talk to somebody?
Oh, mommy, nobody likes me. I hate myself. I don't want to live. Like young babies, and I call them babies, 5, 6, 7 year olds, you
Mm-hmm.
hear this, and that's scary to me because they haven't even started life yet, really.
Right, like 5-year-old saying, I hate myself.
I hate myself. Nobody likes me. And so it becomes a ripple effect. And what I found is they're still trying to learn how to make and keep friends, those social circles. So if one person in that group is just like, I don't like you, and they feel like that's the only friend that they have, to a 5-year-old, their entire world is crashing down.
Yeah.
To preteens, their entire world is crashing down. When
High school. Okay?
Yes. Imagine a group of girls saying, I don't want nothing else to do with you. And they make sure they're isolating you. That's hard.
Yes.
That's hard. And so you see that depression and you see that stress and anxiety popping up in there. You see worry popping in there when, parents, sometimes they're oblivious to the fact that their children are listening to them. And so they're talking about bills and they're talking about home issues and they're talking about their health matters. And the children are sitting there taking it all in. And so what does that cause? Worry, stress, anxiety. And parents are not even realizing that children are carrying a burden that they're giving off, but they're not giving it off in order to, in a malicious way, but they're just talking. So just trying to teach parents to be mindful of the conversations that you're having. And when your child is around, be mindful of what you're saying that you're going through, because that child loves you and they're going to take on that burden. And it's nothing that they can do except try their best to manage and cope. So that's where the therapist comes in.
So how do you then, because a lot of people in our community, it's a lot of people in our community say, you don't deserve to have a bad day. You don't have bills to pay. You don't have the stresses of life that I'm dealing with as an adult. So as a child, you should be fine with where you are. And that's another pressure that could happen in the family setting. How do you deal with if you were to have a young girl who say, I want to use your services, but my parents are reluctant because they don't think that therapy is necessary. So how do you solve for that?
Yeah, I think just helping the parent empathize. And I think, of course, parents have compassion for their children, but sometimes they don't have the empathy in place. Because a lot of times parents feel like we didn't have to deal with that as children, but they're not realizing that we're in a totally different generation. And the things that these girls are dealing with now, we never had to deal with. So our parents never had to deal with it.
Right.
And so just trying to get them to understand that with this generation, especially the technology generation and all of this social media blowing up, our girls need safe spaces, because it's not just about what they're getting at home. It's also about what they're getting online.
Right.
And it's not just about what they're getting online. It's also about what they're getting at school. because they're going to school, they're seeing things online, and then they're going to school and they're comparing themselves to the smartest person in the class, the smartest. They're
Right.
comparing themselves to the person that always gets chosen for things, the popular girl, the girl who everyone calls so beautiful, the girl who is able to come to school every day with a brand new outfit or a brand new hairdo. They're
Right.
comparing themselves to this. And that's where that anxiety, stress, depression comes in. And then you start noticing that they're embarrassed to even go in school. Why are you embarrassed to go in school? My hair, because you're comparing yourself to other people. So just getting them to understand that we're in a new generation and you have to learn to believe your child when they say they need help. And don't try to rationalize why they need help.
That's a big one.
Yes.
That is a big one, because we want to our thing is people. We want to know why. We always want to know why. Well, I need help. Why? And a lot of times girls that young can't, or even boys can't articulate, I don't know what it is, but something about going into school gives me anxiety, something about being in social settings or even on social media, but I can't stop. Being able to articulate certain things, and the parents are like, well, I just want to know why. So taking away the need to rationalize it, I think, is a huge step in making sure that we're doing this for the girls.
Yeah, and also letting parents know you don't have to, just give them time to come around. Just give them time to express themselves. I've heard parents say after they set up a counseling appointment, they're like, well, good luck, because she doesn't talk to us. She doesn't tell us anything. So good luck to you. And I'm just like, it's okay. It's okay. And then by the time they realize that that girl has just completely opened up, and I try to let them know I created a safe space here, and you can create a safe space at home, but you just have to be willing to do the work, and you have to be willing to step back and take your hands off certain things and just let it flow naturally. Because if you just create that safe space for your daughter, eventually she's going to be comfortable to articulate what she needs to articulate. But if she feels like, oh, if I tell mama or daddy that, they're going to fly off the handle.
Yeah.
You're never going to get it. You're never going to get it. And they're constantly going to seek that safe space from someone else.
So we talked a lot previously about what happens in a safe space, especially when a person feels comfortable to tell you the deepest, darkest, and to even tell you those things that they really don't want to say out loud, but they need to get it out of their head. So how does a person create safe space, and how can we know that when we go into a therapist's office that we are in a safe space? What are some things that we can look out for, or what are some things that we should expect?
Right. So with my clients, I do an initial consultation. And so I think that I would tell people to pay attention to those initial consultations, because when you get on that 15 or 20-minute call with that therapist is going to reveal who they are, whether you want to believe it or not. And so I would say pay attention to whether you connect with that person or not. Think about it as a journey. This is a person that's going to walk you through a journey. Am I comfortable with this person? Because I've done consultations with people for my own therapy. And if I didn't feel that warm fuzzy, or if I knew that, hey, I'm not going to be able to just open up to this person, just the way their demeanor, I just know they're not the person for me. And you don't have to book. Don't feel obligated to book. But pay attention to those warm fuzzies. But if you get on the phone with that person and your first gut reaction is, okay, I think I can do this. And then when you go to that session, that first session is going to reveal a lot. If when you get in there and it's just like, you better pay attention to that. You better pay attention to that. Listen. And my clients will tell you, like, but the way we are talking now, that's how I talk to my clients. That's how I talk to their parents. But that creates that safe space because they know I am who I am. I am who I am. And just being dependent on the fact that people are going to reveal themselves. And so when a girl and their parents walk into my office, just letting them know from the get-go, all right, y'all, now, I'm just going to be real with you. Whatever we talk about, I'm not going to tell you, mama, unless they're in danger.
Right.
And they understand that. And so for the girls, just hearing that reiteration of me saying it's confidential, boom, trust is already being built. And then when that mom walks out and I'm just like, okay, you heard me tell your mom, if we ever have a parent coaching session or anything, I'm never going to tell them what we talk about unless you're in danger or someone is hurting you. Confidentiality, that trust is built even more. And then in my office, I like for it to be really girly. So you're going to see the lights and the pillows and the teddy bears. And then my girls love it. You have the snacks right there. They just reach over and grab some chips while they're talking, or they reach over and grab some candy while they're talking. Or when they get ready to leave out, they're like, I'm going to take the blue candy today. So just creating those safe spaces for them to let them know, even when we're having our sessions and I'm laughing and talking and being a little, transparent myself, and they realize, oh, she's human,
Right.
She's human. Or even talking to them like, girl, what are you talking about? Like, they get that kind of stuff. And so it develops trust within them. And then next thing you know, as sessions go on, they're completely open. They're completely trustworthy with you. And they know that you have their best interests at heart. And it's so funny when the moms are like texting me like, when did you say my appointment is? Because this girl keep on asking me when she's coming back.
No, it feels hard because, especially to those parents who are who didn't grow up learning how to be in tune with those signs. Does my child know how to cope? Is my child adaptable? Are they living, in their best life or whatever the case may be, right? So sometimes to make the switch to say, okay, well, I know something is wrong, but how much of it do I try to do on my own before I go out and seek help? Mm-hmm. So when you have parents, who are just like, look, she's 7, she's in a phase, I just think that, she'll grow out of it eventually. How long, I know it's individual, but, how long do you suppose it's safe, I guess is the word that I want to use for lack of a better term, to allow a behavior to continue before it gets out of control?
I think that when you notice that certain interventions that you've put in place are not working, mm-hmm. I think it's time to go ahead and consult an expert or someone who works in that field. So like you said, I don't think that it's hard to put a time frame on it because each person is so different and what they're going through is so different. But I would definitely say that when you notice that your child's behavior is getting worse or not changing, not getting better, or interventions that you've put in place is not helping, or you notice that, even the school is calling and saying that your child is different. Those are those times that you should really pay attention and just make sure you seek help. And also that just brings me to, parents, they want the best for their children. Right. They just want to see their children live happy and thriving lives. And so that's why I try to make sure it's a collaborative effort. And so I like to have some sessions with my girls, and then I like to have sessions with the parents, because ultimately, if the parents aren't empowered, they can't empower their children.
Right.
So
yes.
You can't just say, I'm giving therapy to the child and that's it. Okay, I get it. Some people can. But for me, I feel that as a parent, I want to know what I can do to help my child. And they trust me. So they don't care to know all the details. Mm-hmm. They know I'm not going to tell them, for one, but they want to know, what can I do at home to help? Like, what do I need to change? And it's always so beautiful when I look a mom in the face and say, just keep being the mom you are.
Mm.
It just warms her heart to know she's doing a good job, you know. And it doesn't always, sometimes our coaching sessions are, okay, let's look at this. What can we change?
Yeah.
And then our coaching sessions, I try to make it on, you're doing a fantastic job. You're an amazing mom. Your child knows you're there for them. You know, all we have to do is tweak this, tweak that, and we're going to be on it. We're going to be on it. So just making sure that those parents feel a part of the therapy process, feel a part of the healing process, so that, and also helping them heal, because sometimes they're dealing with childhood wounds because they went through things in their past that some of them haven't gotten help for. So if we can just empower everybody in the process, we'll make a whole family. You know,
Yes.
we'll make a whole family. The entire family will be empowered. But if we're just empowering one person and not the other, or if we're making that parent feel like they don't deserve to be a part of the process or they don't need to be a part of the process, it's not going to work. So
Right.
my goal is to make sure that parent knows I'm here for you, I'm here for them, and we're going to do it together.
So, and that kind of brings me to the next question is how do you how do you have that kind of conversation, because that's a fine line to walk, because a lot of parents are just like, well, if I send you to therapy, they're going to think something's wrong with you, which is my fault.
Mm-hmm.
And how do you handle that kind of barrier or that kind of hurdle that you would have to get over to talk to the parent and be like, hey, listen, it's not your fault. Like, how do you have that kind of conversation, so that, because I know there are a lot of parents who are just like, well, I'm doing the best I can, like I'm doing all that I can do. If they go out and tell other people that I'm not doing my best, now I have to try to answer to these people. What if they take my kid away? What if they tell, all these other negative thoughts that just jump way off in the deep end? How do you have those types of conversations?
Yeah, I think that comes with building those relationships from the beginning,
Hmm.
building those relationships from even the consultation call and explaining to them, it's going to get hard sometimes, but we're going to make it through together.
Yeah.
And, just being open. And honestly, I must be honest, Leah, my parents are, by the time they get their child into therapy, it's almost like one of those situations, whatever I need to do to help my child. Even if
Ah.
that means that I need to change something. I mean,
Mhm.
the mothers, the fathers, they're at that point of whatever I need to do to help my child, just tell me what I need to do.
Mhm.
So I haven't, honestly, I try to build those relationships from the beginning. So I don't like meeting with parents. I have that first session with the parent and the child, and then I dismiss the parent, and it's me and the child. But I don't like having one-on-one sessions with the parent until I've gotten to know that child well enough. And
Right.
as I'm getting to know that child well enough, think about it. When that parent is picking up that child from therapy and we're having small talk, those are small relationships being built. So that by
Mhm.
the time we do have a session, they know that I'm not coming for them. I'm
Right.
genuinely just trying to let them know what we could do differently. How can you support your daughter at home so that we can continue seeing the healing and the growth? And so by the time we get there, it's just like, what else do I need to do? And it's almost like, and I think being a school counselor has kind of helped me on the journey with being a therapist, because
Mhm.
I've learned how to deal with parents and how to work with parents.
Yes. Yes.
So it's not, I've learned that you don't just find all the sore spots and say, hey, you need to work on this, work on
Yeah.
this.
Let's start poking. Let's just start. Yeah.
Yeah, you need to find that good stuff and let those parents know you are doing an amazing job, but let's do this.
Right.
And they're open to it.
So, as you talk about being an advocate for your girls, being an advocate for your clients, and making sure that they know, hey, I'm in your corner, I'm here for you, like how can I support you? How can a person be an advocate for themselves while they are seeking services in the mental health sphere?
I think that it's important for us. to just take time to get to know ourselves,
Mm.
take time to get to know those triggers, take time to create those boundaries and let those boundaries be known and not be embarrassed or ashamed about it or feel like I'm not worthy of having these boundaries. But I feel like
Mm.
that is really important while we're seeking help. Just getting ourselves in line. And if we, it's so many adults walking around who don't really know themselves. So if we don't know ourselves and we notice, it's almost like as soon as something comes, that emotion starts popping up, not realizing it's a ripple effect.
Right.
Something has happened to make you react this way.
Right.
Something, you're not healed from something. Something is bothering you. Something is on your mind to make you react this way. But if you don't take time to reflect, meditate, and get to know yourself, how are you going to know how to help yourself? How are you going to know how to advocate for yourself? Or even creating those boundaries. And that's why I think it's so important to teach boundaries to children, these young girls, because
Right.
if not, they're going to become grown women walking around not knowing how to set boundaries with people or feeling like they have to be a people pleaser in order to keep friends. Or
Woo!
feeling like, oh, I better not tell him no, or he's not going to want me. He's going to go to that girl over there who I feel is much more prettier than me. So if
Mm-hmm.
we teach them that while they're young, they'll be empowered and ready to take on the world when they get older, and they'll know who they are. And I think that's one of the biggest things with me and my girls that I'm working with. Know who you are. How can we get to know yourself? And how can we get you to love who you are? Like, don't just know who you are, but girl, you better love who you are. And you don't have to be arrogant in order to say, I love myself. I
Yes.
think I'm beautiful. I think I'm kind. I think I'm a great friend. Like, be proud of those things that you represent, because if not, the world is going to tear you down.
Every chance they get, like going on, so even passively, because
Yeah.
when you're on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, whatever the social media site, you're automatically going to go to like her, but she has a million likes, or I don't talk like this, but everybody seems to like it. I
Yeah.
can't dance like that, but this is what's going viral.
Yeah.
So maybe I have to try on all these different avatars, and when we put on all these different avatars, we don't really know who's that underneath.
Right.
So it
Oh,
makes it
yeah.
makes it really difficult for us to get to know who we are. So I like that, advocating for self is starting with getting to know who we are,
Yeah.
getting to know what we want, and even if we don't know how to go get it, we can at least start looking for resources to make it happen.
Yes.
Yeah.
And don't be ashamed to reach out for help. Like, don't be ashamed to say, I need to know how to go about finding a therapist, or I need to know how to go about, working through whatever it is you might be going through. And I'm one of those girlfriends, like when one of my girlfriends are like texting me like, girl, I'm going through this, I'm going through that. If I see like a trend, I'm going to be like, girl, I love you, but let me be honest with you. You need a therapist. Let me be honest with you. I'm about to send you some links, and I want you to look and see who fits you.
Right.
I want you to sign up for that consultation. So it's just being open and honest about those conversations with each other.
Mm.
It's okay to reach out. It's okay to say, I don't know what else to do. I
Mm.
need help. And just showing that empathy.
That's you make my heart happy.
Oh,
This is such a cool conversation. Thank you so much, Robin. Can you please tell people where to find you? Like, let them know if they're in South Carolina, how to contact you if they want to get a consultation. Maybe they have a daughter, maybe themselves. You said 5 to 29. This is your time to shine. Plug away.
Oh, well, you can reach me at empoweredprincessestherapy.com, or you can find me on Instagram at Counselor Robin. I like hanging out on Instagram. And you can also email me at empoweredprincesses@gmail.com.
Awesome. I truly have appreciated this conversation, and as we talk about mental health and where it's going and how it helps and the benefits and some of the hurdles we may face, especially in our community. I appreciate that you are being of service, that you do love what you do, because a lot of therapists I talk to don't really like what they do. So
I
I'm
love it,
appreciative.
girl. It's my calling.
I'm appreciative that you love what you do. But thank you, everyone, for tuning in to another episode of Take a Space podcast. I am your host, Leah, joined by Robin. Make sure that you follow her on Instagram at Counselor Robin. Make sure you check out her website, send her an email, let her know if you need any help. Are you a good resource if
Yes,
you are not the therapist for them?
absolutely. If you send me a message, I will get you some therapists for you to look at. I
That's
will
what I
send
love
it
to
your
hear.
way.
That's
Yes.
what I love to hear. Yes. So make sure you reach out. Thank you so much for tuning in. Y'all make sure to follow us at Take Up Space POD on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Let us know your thoughts. You know, whether you have had therapy before, whether you're a little apprehensive about therapy. We may be able to do a Q&A to find out how we can get over some of those barriers that you may face. So thank you so much again, Robin. And thank you everyone for tuning in. Have a great one.